I think if you had to pin or you had to pick the top 5 teams right now, it's definitely the 3 teams I mentioned: Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles. Whatever order you want to put them in. But yeah, I mean, overall, for a team that had 5 picks like the Eagles, I was impressed with A, the value they got, and B, the types of impact players they can have in year one. Like Cam Jurgens could start at center on this team right now. They just have an all-pro in Jason Kelce.
Appreciate you streaming on in. The Birds 365, McMullen, McDonald, and a boy, Jeff Kerr, jumping aboard to join us here on this Thursday morning. JK, we haven't talked to you since the draft. How much fun was that from an Eagles standpoint, and the rest of the NFL? We want you to comment as well. Man, there was a lot of activity. I don't know about you, but I was home watching it and I knew I was going to be going on the air hosting shows, and I couldn't keep up with the damn trades.
Yeah.
Every other pick that was made was a trade acquired, a trade reacquired, and the like. Were you able to keep up draft day, or just let me wait till this is all over and done with and analyze the whole thing?
Well, it was funny you mentioned that because I was responsible for 3 teams in that draft: the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. And the Chiefs were trading, and the Eagles were trading, and the Ravens wanted to trade. And I knew they wanted to draft Jordan Davis. So that was interesting in and of itself, just following 3 teams in their war rooms and what they were doing in the first round. By the way, all 3 teams had an excellent draft.
But yeah, you had 3 good teams, man. There,
yeah, when the Chiefs got Karlaftis at 30, I'm like, I didn't even realize he was still on the board. And I'm just saying to myself, wow, they crushed it. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, and the Ravens. I kind of figured they were going to draft Kyle Hamilton right after Jordan Davis went off.
I think the Ravens had the best draft at all, even though everybody kept trying to trade ahead up of them, thinking, and they did want Jordan Davis. But, one thing Eric DeCosta is really good at is thinking on his feet, and he's got the contingency plan ready to go. A couple other times in the draft, people are trading directly in front of the Ravens because they want a particular player they know they want. That's probably a good strategy, by the way, because I always say they're the smartest team in the NFL. So if you know who they want, go get that player because they're probably know more than you do. And that's usually born. And they were that 4th round. Every time you looked up, they had, I don't know how many picks in the 4th round. And they were all like, wow, that's good value. That's good value. Amazing organization. And it really goes back to Ozzie Newsome. And we're talking about the Eagles front office leading the show, which is obviously well regarded as well. But since I've been around the NFL, I don't think there's been a more well regarded franchise than the Baltimore Ravens.
I'll tell you what, it was funny Friday night. So after DeCosta made his picks, they were talking, and I think it was Jameson Hensley that asked him the question, do you guys plan on wheeling and dealing some of these 4th round picks, trying to get some draft capital for next year? And he kind of smiled at him and winked, and then Hensley just basically wrote the no, they're not doing that. They're going to make all those picks. I think he kind of knew, but he had to ask the question. And boy, they filled up a lot of holes there with Kohler and Isaiah Likely. They got 3 really good tight ends now.
And we know Lamar with the tight ends, and how good Mark Andrews is. He's just really comfortable throwing the ball to tight ends. So it makes a lot of sense. I remember when they were here for joint practices and the one year, and I just said, man, they got good tight ends. They're just killing the Eagles with the tight ends, and it continues. And, we'll see how things shake out with Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. But to me, they were the best draft. But the Eagles are certainly top 5 in my mind.
I think if you had to pin or you had to pick the top 5 teams right now, it's definitely the 3 teams I mentioned: Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles. Whatever order you want to put them in. But yeah, I mean, overall, for a team that had 5 picks like the Eagles, I was impressed with A, the value they got, and B, the types of impact players they can have in year one. Like Cam Jurgens could start at center on this team right now. They just have an all-pro in Jason Kelce.
That's true. And it's a bit of a luxury pick. So, I tell Jody I've been too optimistic. Thanks for Bob Groats yesterday for bringing me down to earth. I got to start. It is a luxury pick because you still don't have a starting corner that you need. And the Eagles were again, and Zach McPherson's ready. Really? Is he ready? Because I don't think the Eagles think he's really ready. Tay Gowan, the Kerry Vincents of the world, and then safety. I've been saying it for a while now. People are jumping on the bandwagon. Marcus Epps is the best safety on this team, but as Jody says, well, yeah, that might be true, but that's a pretty low bar, and he's right. You could argue they need two safeties because I think Anthony Harris is a declining player. I think it's fair to say from where he was once a Pro Bowl player. So I think it's fair to say he's not that. How do you feel about taking a luxury pick so high for a team that is supposedly building, as Jeffrey Lurie would say?
This is when they picked Jurgens, I'm like, ooh, I like this player. Did I think it was necessary? I mean, is Jason Kelce going to retire after this year? Because if so, then yeah, I like the pick. But if Cam Jurgens is going to wait 2-3 years because Jason Kelce's still playing at a high level, whether they move him to guard or not, or have him slide in at guard, I don't know. But here's the other problem, John. What cornerbacks were really on the board that you were like, should we get this guy in the second round? Is he worth it? Maybe we should trade back. And I just think they saw an opportunity to get Cam Jurgens, and they had Jason Kelce seal of approval and said, you know what? Let's get a talented guy in here, a guy who could be a potential Pro Bowler in and of itself. And I wasn't sure what they were going to do at right guard. I know Isaac Seumalo. I think he's a free agent. I can't remember if it's after this year or next year.
Yeah, it's after this year. Yes. I was before they cut Nate. And I told Jody this. Nate Herbig, I'm talking about. I was starting to write a story on. They might move on from Isaac Seumalo because he makes a lot of money for a right guard. Yeah. And he's coming off an injury. He's only played, I think, 12 games over the past 2 years. And if they think that Jack Driscoll, and I know how much Nick Sirianni likes Jack Driscoll, can give them similar level of play, they might decide to save some money. And then they cut Nate Herbig. So that was a little bit of a surprise to me, the way they went there.
Let me put it to both you guys, and you kind of touched on it, Jeff. Jason Kelce, yes, they kind of skimmed back a little bit of.
Yes, he did
in the pick.
And by the way, Jody, he still got 17 questions about evaluating players. I'm like, stop asking him. He said he's not involved. I'm like,
apparently your brethren who cover the Eagles don't believe him. And I don't know if I believe him either, but he didn't want to be known as the guy who's making picks for the Eagles as a player, specifically his own potential replacement. So I understand where Casey was coming from, but I also understand the line of questioning. Let's put that aside for a second. Jason Kelce's going to be Eagles starting center this year. And as Jeff said, maybe we'll be again next year. Maybe we'll be the year after that. No, we have to do this safety dance every year with Jason Kelce as he makes up his mind, which I don't know how much he does or doesn't enjoy. I liked his answer yesterday about, well, you first got to figure it out physically. And when you know you're up to it, then you check out your situation. And yeah, we had fun last year. We got that much better last year. Coach Sirianni, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know that we're not going to do this 2 more years with Jason Kelce. At what point do they cross-train Beef Jerky as a potential guard? Because I remember last year in the second round when they took Dickerson, we all talked about, he's the heir apparent to Jason Kelce at center for the Eagles. This is kind of a luxury pick. Well, they've done it again. Same exact thing. When do we see Jurgens playing a little tackle this year, just in case Kelce's going to stick around for a couple more seasons?
I'll tell you when we see him playing guard. When McMullen goes to training camp. I think that's when they're going to cross-train him. I think you'll see him play some guard in the preseason. And they seem to cross-train everybody. Jack Driscoll was drafted as a tackle, and I remember the draft evaluate. He's strictly going to be a tackle. He's not elusive enough to be a guard. Well, he proved them wrong. Jack Driscoll's a pretty good guard and has a bright future in the National Football League. So I think you're going to see Cam Jurgens play some guard. I think you're going to see him play some center this preseason for how much time they have. And I think the cross training begins immediately. I'm not sure we'll see it this Friday in rookie minicamp, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point, Jody. I really feel that they're going to cross train this player. He's going to be a center. He's going to be a guard just in case. Because Jason Kelce, the way he's playing, I wouldn't be shocked if he did actually play till he's 36, 37, just based on his level right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing. I think with Jason, it comes down to how he feels physically, basically. And he felt good coming off last season, at least better than normal. But, yeah, I mean, noted scout Jason Kelce himself said, if you're a backup player in this league, you got to be cross-trained. You can only dress 7 or 8. So you got to be able to play multiple positions. The question is not, is he going to be cross-trained? Is, can he play guard? That's the question. And a lot of people don't think he can. That's not a natural position. And Jason again brought up, probably not physically. It's not a natural position for him. But I will say to Jody's point, if there's one guy who's going to tell you the truth, it's Jason Kelce. And Jason Kelce said, this is more of, hey, we're going to draft your replacement. Are you okay with that? That's basically the impact he had on the signing. And then he likes the player, which is a good thing. And Jason's one of those guys. We saw it with Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee this week, Jeff, when he got asked about Malik Willis, and he's like, I'm not here to mentor him, or whatever the term was. He said, I think it was mentor. And Jason's the exact opposite. He said he's been trying to train his replacement for 8 years now. And he's always willing to help younger players. And that's always interesting when you see the dichotomy, because it's a weird setup to say, hey, go help your potential replacement. The entire setup of the NFL is a little bit weird, but it's great when you have a player like Jason Kelce who's willing to help young players. And you got to be really, really secure in yourself. And he certainly is really secure in himself.
Now, do you think that has to do with the position? Because I always feel quarterback, wait, I'm going to help this guy take my job. It's a little different, I think, between center, between cornerback. I remember, I think Bobby Taylor and Troy Vincent were huge in Leo Shepard and Sheldon Brown's development over the years. I don't think Blaine Bishop was probably the same with Michael Lewis, because Michael Lewis was always creeping down his back and Bishop was at the end.
But I think it's security. Like, if you're Patrick Mahomes, you'll help anybody. What do you care? Yeah. I mean, if you're
Ryan Tannehill, does he have job security right now?
No,
I don't.
Absolutely not. It's always about security. That's why it was so interesting with Brett Favre back in the day, when Brett was, I'm not, because he had some solid security, whether people knew it or not.
I mean, he had Doug Peterson behind him most of his career, so I don't think he had to look over his shoulder too much.
Well, I mean, when they drafted Aaron Rodgers late in his career, when he's, those two, he wasn't exactly helpful to Aaron Rodgers, but nobody gets along with Aaron Rodgers.
Shot on Doug by Kerr. Didn't see that one coming. All right, Devonta Smith was.
Jody.
Okay, Devonta Smith was one of the Eagle quote-unquote veterans, all of a year-plus veteran that got to speak to the media yesterday, and he, of course, was excited about A.J. Brown being on the opposite side of him. How do you see this working, J.K.? How do you think the spread of touches goes? The Eagles have now a wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 1, and a wide receiver 1A. It's, of course, going to come down to opportunity in games, how other teams defend it. We can lay it out how we think it's going to go, but then it's actually going to have to be decided on the field. So we'll stick with just doing it on paper. How do you think the Eagles coaching staff looks at their 2 wide receivers right now?
I think they just got to distribute the ball based on whoever's open. I mean, you got a game plan, guys, scheme for whoever's open there, but they got to throw the ball more than 20 times a game. I think that offense they had in the second half of last year that got them to the playoffs, it has to change. And I think they have to prove that really Jalen Hurts needs to throw the football consistently. If Jalen Hurts can do that, and I know he admitted that yesterday he looked back at the tape of his games and he said there were some where he thought he was playing at a high level and some where he thought he was terrible. And I'm sure we can all mention here the games we thought he was terrible, but he just needs to be more consistent with the football. And I think he's got to be prepared to throw the ball 25 to 30 times a game with the weapons he has. You have Dallas Goedert. You got to put him in the mix. Wes Watkins is going to have to get some touches. This whole team, they're going to – I think Nick Sirianni wants to run a passing offense. He just has to trust the quarterback he has. And it's easy to say that in May, but what happens in October if Jalen Hurts is inconsistent again?
But here's the more difficult question, Jeff. You're right. You got to distribute the ball to who's open. But, you know, we brought up Doug Peterson. Doug would game plan. He always says, football coaches, 17 and 86. That's who I'm game planning for. And that was all Sean Jeffrey. This was back before everything went bad. And Zach Ertz. Nick Sirianni said 6 and 88. Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert turned into late in the season, turned into 88 and 6. Dallas pretty much turned into number one, but it was those two guys. And he always tells the story of his old college coach had on the play sheet, had a series of plays for a guy you had to get the football. You had a little section of plays for the guy you had to get the football. And at least early in the season, which kind of tells you where the Eagles were, it was a rookie receiver. It was Devontae Smith. They have to game plan with somebody in mind, and it's usually two guys. Give me the numbers. Who are those two guys going to be? I'm going to foreshadow because it's going to be 11 and 88.
Yep,
not 6.
What I'm going with. It's 11 and 88, and that's who I would game plan for. And you kind of have to do it that way. I think Devonta Smith's going to be fine because that's the type of player he is. He doesn't remind me of a diva or, give me the ball, give me the ball. He reminds me of a guy that, hey, you know what? If I'm going to be open, I'm going to make the most of my opportunities when I'm open. But I agree with you, John, 11 and 88, because you got a potential top 5 wide receiver in you and A.J. Brown, who's only getting better year after year. He's 24. And you got Dallas Goedert, who, if we rank the top tight ends in football right now, he's right up there with the best of them.
I'll disagree. I think Devonta Smith will be targeted more than Dallas Goedert next year. That's just me. I know how good Goedert is, and he stepped up big time, and that's why he got the contract. But I don't think Devonta Smith looks like a third choice in anybody's offense. Wouldn't be in my offense. But
I'll say this too with Dallas Goedert. He's going to be so wide open in the middle of the field with all those zone looks because you're going to have to.
Got to remember the quarterback too, Jody. The quarterback got very, very comfortable throwing the football to Dallas Goedert late last season. Very comfortable.
I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to argue that the Eagle offense is going to change this upcoming year. I think that's why they went out and got the wide receiver that they did, because their two top options were throwing it to the running the football, throwing it to the tight end. I don't think that's what they want. I don't think that's what the coach would prefer if he can make his game plan happen. I think it's going to be getting the ball more on the guys to the outside and throwing further downfield.
I agree with the preference, but do you have the vehicle to get to your preference? I just talked about Lamar Jackson with the tight ends. Same type of situation. You got to take advantage of what your particular quarterback does well.
By the way, what an interesting situation in Baltimore. It's basically Rashad Bateman, Devin DuVernay, and guys. It's going to be interesting because Hollywood Brown basically said, I just don't like the offense. Even though I'm with my buddy, I'm out. Rashad Bateman is a younger, cheaper option who was pretty good at the end of last year. I'm really curious to see what he does in year 2 and how many times the Ravens actually throw the ball to wide receivers. Because I think I'm going to end my Twitter arguments now with, well, the Ravens have a worse group of wide receivers than this team because it's clear they don't care about that position as much.
They don't care as much. I think it's fair to say that. But yeah, I mean, and that's part of the reason probably, Marquise Brown wanted out. But if you look at, their backups are James Proche. I guess
James
it's going
Gross, yep.
to be their slot receiver, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's names you don't even recognize. But then you see the tight ends, and you say, why are they drafting two tight ends with Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle? And because Lamar loves throwing the football to tight ends, and they take advantage of it. I think it's a smart thing to do, but you got to get players like Mark Andrews, which isn't easy. But the Eagles have one. I'm not going to say Dallas Goedert is Mark Andrews, because I think the three best tight ends are Andrews, Kittle, Kelce. But I think Dallas is right there.
I think he's top 5. It's 4. I'm trying to think who I put for 4. I think Goddard would be 5.
I think Goddard would be 4. I can't think of somebody. I think it's those 3 and Goddard.
Receiving-wise, I think Mike Gesicki's up there with them. But blocking-wise, well, we all know that Dolphins never make him block. So he couldn't block at Penn State, but again, that wasn't his role.
Who are your 3 ahead of Goddard?
Andrews, Kittle, and Kelce.
I'd take the kid from Las Vegas.
Darren Waller.
Darren Waller, yeah.
Well, he's a good receiver, but yeah.
What about TJ Hawkins?
That's what we're talking about receiving here, aren't we? We're not talking
about. We're talking about, Darren's a receiver. He was a receiver. He was drafted as a receiver by Baltimore. Yeah, and I remember him here. He killed the Eagles as a rookie. It was just, jumping up over him.
There were 2 guys, I feel like, in the Ravens history that we always forget they were Ravens. One's Darren Waller and one is Priest Holmes. I always forget he was the starter / backup on that Super Bowl team.
Yeah, Priest Holmes turned into a pretty good player. Now running backs get lost in the weeds because nobody cares about him. So let's talk about the running backs, Jeff Kerr. We've been mentioning Miles Sanders a lot. Eagles didn't do anything at running back because they went, the one, I guess, negative to the Eagles draft was the volume. Obviously, they started with 10 picks. They were down to 5. So you couldn't address. We're like, if they had 10 picks, you knew they were going to take a tight end. You knew they were going to take a running back. You knew they were going to take a cornerback at some point, a safety at some point. But they couldn't take it. They only had 5 picks. So that volume was missing. One of the positions was running backs. They did sign Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma as an undrafted kid. Any concern at running back for the Eagles? We're kind of nitpicking, but they look good everywhere else offensively.
So when I did an Eagles-only mock draft, I only did one of them. I don't even think I mocked the running back to them. And I made the joke that they got their value last year in Kenny Gainwell, and I forgot to mention him right away, and I actually put like a fun edit at the end. I'm like, if I forget who you are after your first year, that's usually a good thing because that means you produced. And I feel very strongly about Kenny Gainwell and what he can bring to that offense as a backup running back, as a receiving back out of the backfield. He can play that scat back role. I worry about if Miles Sanders gets hurt again. Do they go with Gainwell? Do they go with Boston Scott? I like the 3 that they have. And Jordan Howard, I don't know if he'll come back or not. He's still a free agent, but
he's waiting for the call.
Yeah,
he'll wait for the call. Jordan Howard obviously has no interest anywhere else, but he's so important to this team. Like, if Miles Sanders does get hurt, I don't think Kenny Gainwell is a running back one from a durability standpoint, from a size standpoint, from a guy who can carry the football 15 to 20 times on a given day. I'm not saying for a whole season. Jordan Howard proved he can do that still. On this team, maybe he can't do it on any other team. I probably agree with you. But for this team, I called Jordan Howard today. I'd say, what the hell? Veteran minimum?
He's a cheap, and you're right. He produces here. There are certain guys that just produce here. It's been tested over time, no matter whose offense it was. I'm trying to think who the receiver was Andy Reid always brought in that was productive here.
Who are you thinking of?
Oh, God. I got to rewatch old Eagles games now. I'm sure it'll come to me the minute I...
Jason Avant you're talking about?
You know what? It was Jason Avant. That's right. It was Jason Avant. He was solid KC, but He was reliable here, and the Eagles would give him a contract extension all the time. I mean, it's not like Jason Vaughn was terrible because he wasn't, but he was very good here.
He was a solid big slot receiver. Didn't have a lot of speed, but he was a solid player.
All right, let me channel my best Bob Groats here, and it will annoy Eagle fans because it's a pessimistic hypothetical question.
Bob can find anything pessimistic about anything. We would cover a high school game together. Bob would find something pessimistic about the game. It's too hot or something.
That's our boy Groats.
Probably right. It's probably too hot.
Yesterday we heard from Brandon Graham, and John always extols his virtue as a leader around this team, and just a guy that everyone looks up to and can actually motivate his teammates and the like. And Eagles don't have Kelce and Graham. Otherwise, this locker room is, I don't want to say completely devoid of them, but they're not jam-packed with them either. So you have to appreciate the guys who actually do fill that role for you. And no surprise, Brandon talked a good game yesterday. As healthy as he's been, everything's going well. What if he's putting a smile face on things? What if Brandon Graham isn't what he used to be? That this Achilles injury has actually had him lose a step. And Brandon's never been a double-digit sack guy, but a good pressure guy. What if he's not even that? As of right now, did the Eagles have enough at defensive end for you, Jeff Kerr?
I think it's enough in the sense that I don't think Brandon Graham is a de facto starter on this team next year. I think it's Hassan Reddick. I think it's Josh Sweat. And then you go to Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett. And we got to keep in mind here, Milton Williams is probably going to play some edge as well because they're going to mix him in and out. I think they have the depth in case Brandon Graham isn't the same Brandon Graham. But I think Brandon Graham doesn't have to be that Brandon Graham anymore. I just think he has to be a guy that's productive when he's in there. And I still think even with an injury, Brandon Graham can still stop the run with the best of them. So I think he's going to have his value on this team, whether he's Brandon Graham or not. I don't think it's going to matter in the long run. I would like to see him get more depth there, but the guy I wanted them to sign ultimately went to Houston, Rasheem Green. I really liked him. I thought he would be great for this team. But overall, I think they're fine at defensive end and edge rusher. I feel like Brandon Graham's the wild card in all this. They could be great if he comes back to, say, Brandon Graham. But if not, they'll survive. They will.
All right, last one from me, Jeff. Follow him at Jeff Kerr, CBS. Read him, CBS Sports as well. Josh Sweat. Nobody talks about Josh Sweat. Where are you with Josh Sweat? I mean, clearly the plan is, as you mentioned, on third downs, it's going to be Hassan Reddick on one side and Josh Sweat on the other. Is he ready to take that next step? The Eagles certainly think so. They gave him the contract extension. I always said the first time there's a few players that the first time I see him, I go, wow, for different reasons. The first time I ever saw T.O. on a football field, I was like, wow, this guy's different physically. Josh Sweat, the first time I saw him as a rookie, and he was only a 4th round pick, remember, I said, that guy looks like an edge rusher.
You can tell he was a 5-star player.
Yeah. If you were in Hollywood casting for a football movie and wanted an edge rusher, you'd go get somebody who looks like Josh Sweat. He had the knee injuries, as you mentioned, was once a really, really high-level recruit. Is he ever going to be the double-digit sack guy? Got close. I think it was at 7.5 last year. Can he take that next step?
If I had to do 5 bold predictions for the Eagles in 2022, and I was pretty close on a couple of them last year, Josh Sweat will be a double-digit sack guy this year because of the presence of Hassan Reddick, because of Jordan Davis, because of Fletcher Cox, because of Javon Hargrave. You can't block all these guys. Like, someone's going to be free a couple times, and Jonathan Gannon can dial up some good 4 or 5-man pressures. Josh Sweat's going to get his. He's going to get home. So if there's anybody on this team I'm banking on double-digit sacks this year, I think it's Josh Sweat. I really do. I think Hassan Reddick can get it, but I feel Hassan Reddick's presence is going to benefit Josh Sweat more than anybody else on this team.
All right, last one for me, Jeff Kerr. I'm going to ask you about an Eagles rental property. That would be their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, who the Eagles are just renting this year because it's a foregone conclusion he's going to be a head coach in the National Football League at some point,
So the Eagles
if not next year. There's some pressure on Gannon this year because they certainly went out and upgraded his weapon. We talk about weapons all the time, and A.J. Brown is a massive upgrade weapon for the quarterback on the offensive side. Well, they gave Gannon a couple of really nice tools to be able to work with, and I love Hassan Reddick, the player. I hope Jonathan Gannon uses him properly and figures out the best way to use him and get the most production out of him. We'll see what Davis gives them in the middle of the line. We love the talent. How is he going to be used with the two guys that they've already got at tackle who are significant contributors to this team as is, both with some holes, and that's why the Davis pick is a good one. Give me your confidence level, Jeff Kerr, from A+ to F. That Jonathan Gannon is going to be able to take the talent and or lack thereof, safety, cornerback too, and be able to mold this defense to be even better than the one he had last year. A+ to F. What's your confidence level on Gannon right now?
It can't be any worse, so I'll go B. I mean, he definitely has the talent to get pressure on the quarterback. He has the talent. He has the all-ball linebackers to make plays now. I think that was one of his biggest deficiencies last year. And again, that wasn't his fault, but the Eric Wilson experiment was a total flop. So you had to go with guys like TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton. And he was spending half the year finding the right combination of guys that can just be competent. And obviously the Brandon Graham injury hurt. Steve Nelson was okay. He wasn't right. I mean, he would be nice to have on this defense this year, but I get it. They like those young cornerbacks. I thought he had issues at safety last year, and he still has issues in the secondary. So this is why I'll go B, because I'm just not sure how he's going to dial up the coverage scheme. But I think with the front seven, the linebackers he's got, I think he's going to be better in 2022. There's no doubt about that.
And hopefully, because according to many, we'll be waving goodbye to Jonathan Gannon after this year. I think he needs to do a little bit more if he's going to end up being relocated to the big chair.
I'm surprised he's not a head coach now. I'm still surprised.
I picked him to go to the Texans, and I got rag on by CBS Sports and everybody else, and I was just like, look, I'm just telling you, that just seemed like a Texans hire. I mean, I hope Lovie Smith's there for more than a year. I just hope he's not a stopgap guy, but we'll see.
Good luck to Lovie.
Bottom line is, they had Jonathan Gannon and Lovie Smith, and Lovie got the job. What does that say about Jonathan Gannon?
Well, there were some other issues involved there.
I mean, would you guys want the Houston Texans job right now? I don't think I would.
I think Jonathan would have took it. He would have taken it.
Well, he likes challenges. By the way, guys, I have to mention this. I don't know if you saw my latest piece on CBSSports.com, doing some self-promotion here. But I recapped the Carson Wentz trade and Howie Roseman's magician, or him being a wizard, essentially. The Eagles traded Carson Wentz and Matt Pryor. They got to the Colts, two separate deals. Yeah. They got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, 2023 first, 2024 second, and Kyron Johnson. And the Saints gave up a boatload of stuff for Chris Olave.
Chris Olave, yeah. I can't believe what the Saints gave up for Chris Olave. But, be careful. Howie's a bad GM, Jeff. You don't know that?
He's a bad GM, and I'll tell you what, I don't know why Mickey Loomis picked up the phone when Howie calls and said, hey, do you guys want any of our first-round picks? I'd be like, stay away from me.
Yeah, I forgot Jody will get this reference. Andrew Friedman is kind of famous in baseball. It's Andrew, right? Friedman?
Yeah.
He wins every trade. Howie's becoming the Andrew Friedman of the NFL. I forget who called him that. I want to give him credit, but I think when it comes to valuation, not evaluation, Jody hears me say this all the time. Nobody better than Howie Roseman. Nobody.
And I'll put him up there right there with any of the other guys. But again, it comes down to you can't separate the
evaluation.
You can try and separate the two, but one eventually, when you're looking at the big evaluation of a general manager, at some point you have to put evaluation back in. You got to be able to pick the right players.
I would argue it's more important. I'm not even arguing that, but when it comes to valuing assets and understanding what assets are worth, Howie Howie does it better than anybody else. I think it's fair to say.
I think if the Eagles ever get another Super Bowl, especially with this core, Howie Roseman should just say, "This is for DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson." Since you guys got to remind me.
Ooh, there you go. Jeff Kerr,
That's
always a pleasure. Appreciate you hopping on
Jeff.
board with us today.
Yeah.
We'll touch base again either next week or the week after. Thanks for coming on with us.
Always a pleasure, guy. Hey, we got the schedule next week, so
forgot about that.
Okay,
May
we'll get you on next week.
May
Talk about
12th.
the schedule. That is
17-0, guys.
Dates and times, love it. We're going to be talking about dates and times. Let's talk logistics. I love that day.
JK, good stuff. Thanks for coming on. I still got a buddy that hits me every single year before the Jets' first game of the season to say 17-0. We got a running joke. We've been texting each other back and forth. The Eagles or the Jets.
That's a loss, Jody.
Neither one of them will be going 17-0. I feel pretty damn confident about it. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. You got your Mac Birds 365 guys will come back. I want to ask John about quarterbacks. Jason, our lead guy, Mr. Hurts, yesterday spoke, and he sounded like a guy who had just comfort in his shoes. God bless him. I love his confidence level. Is he good enough? That we still have to determine. I want to make a point with John about how many guys in the league do we know are good enough already that you can bank on them being your guy for several years to come. I got my rankings. I think you'll be surprised how few there actually are in the league, that Jalen Hurts is in a larger group than you actually consider. All right, we'll come back. We'll do that next. Michael K. also next hour here with us on Birds 365.